Good morning. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. First, we're going to begin with an invocation led by Pastor J.D. Ward of New Hope United Methodist Church. That will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Tatum Wright and Quanisha Darrington of Boy Scouts of America, Cub Pack 1500. Please stand.
Let's pray together. Almighty God, at the beginning of a new day, we acknowledge that we need to turn to you and put our trust in you. At the beginning of this meeting, we seek your guidance in all that we decide and do this day. I pray that you will use these city leaders to bless the lives of those who live in this community. I pray that you will bless all those who work for the city and keep them safe. I pray for your protection for the police officers and firefighters who put their lives at risk for the welfare of others. Lord, I pray that you will help these leaders to do their best to help those who are homeless, those who are poor, and those who need assistance. Please help those who recently lost their jobs and who face uncertain times during the holiday season. Help us to work together for a community that is united in working for the good of all. And now the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Audience, please stand. Audience, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Ward, and thank you very much, Tatum and Quanisha. All right, I call this meeting of the City Council to order. We will start with item 3, Office of the Mayor. We have, blessedly, no presentations this morning. We have 3 appointments to Building Code, Civic Center, and Park Commission. We can take them with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And this is probably a good time to mention that Councilman Griner's light is out today. And so he will be giving a verbal or visual yes that the clerk will record. But for those watching on TV, he is here. He is typically voting yes. Is your red light work? Yes. Okay, well, we'll find out if that. But your green light does not. All right. Item 4, Journal of Council Proceedings. We have items A and B we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Request for uncontested continuances. Item 5, Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. On item 9K1 on page 27 under dilapidated structures, item F, we're going to strike this item. It's 1922 Northeast 44th Street. It has a new owner, and so we'll strike that item. On item 9L, which one? I'm sorry, 9K1F. Yep. 9L1, page 28, item F, 2924 Northwest 12th Street. We'll strike this item. The owner has secured. On page 29, item L, 8 Southeast 7th Street. We'll strike that item. The owner has secured. Item M, 2418 Southwest 44th Street. The owner has secured. And then on item 9M1, abandoned buildings on page 29. Item E, 2924 Northwest 12th Street. The owner has secured. Item L, 8 Southeast 37th Street. The owner has secured. And item M, 1922 Northeast 44th Street. The owner has secured. So on all those items, we'll strike those. On page 32, item 11A, 1 and 2, we're going to defer this item at the request of the Municipal Councilor's Office to December the 17th. So that's A, 1, and 2. And that is all the items I have.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes, sir.
Question. I was told that item 7N was going to be deferred. 7N.
7A on the consent docket?
On the consent, yes, sir. N.
Oh.
It was a legal question, and as of 8 o'clock this morning, it had not been resolved. I don't know where we stand on it.
Okay, we have, Larry, would you like to hear from the applicant?
So, David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. I'd signed up to speak when it came up on the consent docket, but in speaking to the city attorney's office, I do believe we have a resolution. What we intend to do is the portion of the street that is encumbered by the One Oak easement, we intend to make private so that the city will not be accepting that dedication of the right-of-way. And I believe that solves the problem, but I'll defer to Ms. Carpenter.
Yes, so what we would propose for council is that they could approve the letter of credit and accept the plat as to all of it except for the stub with the One Oak infrastructure under it. And that would be private. So they would reject or deny that.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll handle that when it comes back at the consent docket. Okay. That concludes item 5. Item 6, revocable permits. Item 6A is a revocable permit with the Arts Council for opening night and the opening night finale 5K. And we do have a couple people who have signed up to speak. Welcome, Peter DeLisi and Seth Lewis.
Hello, how are you all doing?
Great.
It's nice to see you this morning. Opening night is 28 days away, which is kind of amazing. It'll be the 33rd annual opening night this year, and we simply couldn't do it without all the support that we get from the city of Oklahoma City and, of course, from the city council. We really appreciate all you do to help this event be a success. It's like we're a big team out there because we use pretty much every one of the public services to help make opening night successful. I'm going to introduce Seth Lewis. He's going to tell you all about the event this year.
Morning. This year we also have our volunteer co-chairs, Leah Roper and David Rackley with us. They're up there. And then along with 200 other volunteers are helping us produce this event this year. As in last year's, we have 9 stages. We are out here at City Hall, Oklahoma City Museum of Art, the library, the Civic Center, and finale stage at Bicentennial Park. The Bicentennial Park is free and open to the public, and we expect a crowd of around 25,000 to ring in the new year with us this year. We also do a 5K going down south on Walker, down in front of the river trails, and then back, closing one lane on the west side of Walker. Anticipation of around 300 to 350 runners on that, so it'll have a minimal impact on traffic. We also this year reached out and had our poster designs done in Spanish as well, so we hit the different markets in Spanish as well as all over Oklahoma City. So you'll see these plastered around the city and on billboards that started yesterday. We will have a diverse programming from Orquesta de Calle in the children's area to Shonda Graham in the 3D Theater and Lucas Ross playing the banjo at the library. We have street closures over here on Colcord, Couch, and Walker the day of. But we're looking for a great year and another fun, successful event for our 33rd year.
Awesome event. Councilwoman Hammond?
Well, it sounds lovely. I've never been because I'm usually in bed. But I will see if I can try to rouse myself to stay up late. I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
6B is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership to hold the Sand Ridge Santa Run on December 14th. And Holly has signed up to speak. Even Santa needs a permit with the city of Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Good morning. The annual Sand Ridge Santa Run will take place on Saturday, December 14th from 7:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Sand Ridge Energy Lobby. The run has been taking place downtown for over 10 years and will feature a 5K, 1-mile fun run, and a competitive costume contest. There will also be family-friendly activities like a photo booth, visits with Santa, and free face painting. The route goes through City Center, Midtown, and Heritage Hills, and we estimate around 200 to 300 runners. We are requesting to close Robert S. Kerr Avenue between North Broadway Ave and North Robinson Ave.
Sounds like a great event. I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Holly, and great job with everything with downtown in December. I know we're going to hear more about it later. Now we have item C. This is a revocable right-of-way use permit with Stockyard City Main Street to hold the Cowboy Christmas Parade on December 7th. And we have Kelly Payne.
Good morning. Kelly Payne, General Manager of the Oklahoma National Stockyards and President of Stockyard City Main Street, where we've been hosting the Cowboy Christmas Parade for well over 2 decades. It's a really special thing for us. We feel like Stockyards has always known their identity, and so we have always kicked that off with the Longhorn Procession. The parade starts at Penn and Exchange, works its way down to Agnew, and then goes south to about 14th Street. We have 40 to 50 entries this year. Very family-friendly event, street performers, food vendors. We have some children's activities. We also have an opportunity. We understand that our community is very much impoverished, and so every child has an opportunity to come and get a gift and take a photo with Santa. So we appreciate your continued support for over 2 decades of this wonderful event.
Thank you. Councilwoman?
Excited to see it happening again. I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. We will now recess the council meeting, convene as the Oklahoma City Municipal Facilities Authority, where we have items A through H we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn the OCMFA and convene as the Oklahoma City Public Property Authority, where we have items A and B we can take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we'll adjourn OCPPA and convene as the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust. We merely have item A, claims and payroll. We could take that, obviously, with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We'll adjourn the Oklahoma City Environmental Assistance Trust and reconvene as the council meeting, where we find ourselves on page 5 of your written agenda. Item 7, the consent docket. And there's a handful of things the city manager might speak a few words on, but there's no formal presentation, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So is there anything?
I'm going to have Chief Gorley speak on AT, which is that donation.
Okay.
Your Pact for Family. So I'll have him on that. On item AF, just wanted to point out that's the cancellation of the December 31st meeting. And on that, we end up with, there's the ordinance that sets that we'll have meetings every other week, requires that we have a meeting the first week of January, the first Tuesday of January. And this year it worked out to where we'd have December the 31st and then 1 week later have the meeting on January 7th. Because the December 31st meeting there falls between the New Year's and Christmas, we felt like if we didn't have items that we needed to have the meeting, that we'd go ahead and do a cancellation. So that's why the meeting is canceled. So that is on AF. On K3, this has an effect on that. K3 is the Healthy Neighborhoods Overlay, the zoning item. Notices were sent out to all of the residents in the 7311 zip code, notifying them that we would have the public hearing on December the 31st. Because we're canceling that meeting, that hearing will automatically go to December the 7th. So we just wanted to make sure that was clear to everyone that would be on January the 7th rather than December the 31st because of the cancellation. And that is all I have.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to pull out for separate vote or for a little discussion? Yes. Larry.
Yeah, I need some advice. Do we need to pull item N and vote it separately, or can it be voted the way it is on the agenda?
Oh, right. Well, there was some discussion of amending it at the very least, right, Kenny?
Yes, pull it separately and amend it. Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll handle that.
I'd like to pull item E just for some questions to Chief Gorley and to talk about the drones that we use.
Okay.
For me, I'd like to pull 7AB2 and 7AB5.
Okay, sorry. And you're just for discussion, right? Okay. Anything else? Okay, well,
And while we're talking about, since we did bring it up, K3, just a couple comments on that as well.
okay. All right, we'll take them in order, which I believe means we will start with item E. Councilwoman Hammond.
Yeah, I just wanted, I spoke with Chief Gorley a little earlier this morning about, I had questions about how we use our drones. So I was just wondering if he could come up and speak to that a little bit. And particularly, I'm reading news stories of other cities and places throughout the country using drones and sort of abusing kind of the privacy of residents based on, if you're taking photos, if you see something over a fence, what is our policy? So I just kind of wanted Chief Gorley to speak to that and kind of make sure that the public is aware of how we're using that technology.
Wade Gorley, Chief of Police. This is technology that we've been looking at for a while as the police department to assist us with mapping crime scenes and some other uses as well. Most specifically, this particular purchase, what we're looking at doing to kind of get our feet on the ground with this is using it to investigate fatality accident scenes. Currently, when we go out on an accident scene, we do a lot of different calculations and things to determine speeds, vehicle projections and things like that that caused and contributed to the accident. This is just another tool or resource that we can have that will allow us to get aerial photos. And we also have some software that works in conjunction with the unmanned aerial system to help map the scene. So the drone basically will fly above the crime scene, be able to take the photos and then use the software that we have to map that. There's one of the good things about us not being the first in the country to use this technology is we get to kind of learn from others and look at things around the country that have caused some issues and be aware of that ahead of time. And so what we've done in using it with accident scenes first, it allows us to, again, try the technology, learn how to use it, get good with that, and then also get our people certified in the proper certifications to fly and use these systems. Second thing too, like Councilwoman Hammond we're talking about prior to council, is that anything that we do or any images, anything that are captured still would be required if they're used as evidence as part of the Fourth Amendment search and seizure. So say we did capture something through this that wasn't what we were actually out there doing, we would still be required. It's no different than if a police officer goes on a call, they respond to a domestic or some type of call, and while in that house they observe another crime that's occurred. And in a lot of those instances, what they'll have to do is they'll have to back out and get a search warrant and then proceed that way. The same requirements, restrictions, if you will, would apply to anything that we would come across as a result of this. That's not going to be our intent to be out there doing that and using that, but we all know those things can happen. There is a likelihood, and it has happened in other locations. We just have to make sure that we follow the rules of evidence, follow the Fourth Amendment in any of those situations that we come in, obtain search warrants where necessary, and only intervene in things that might be risk to someone's life or have exigent circumstances.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, Chief.
How can we ensure that these drones will strictly be used for those services that you say for specifically accidents? Or how can we ensure that they will be used just for that?
It's not my intent to just use them for accidents right now. We will expand out from there. I want to use them on crime scenes, especially our more serious crimes where you have spread out amounts of evidence. What got us kind of onto this technology, there was an incident that OHP had that some of our officers were involved in. It was a large crime scene in a rural area, and they used some of this technology, and we saw how it was used to help map that crime scene. But what we've done prior to implementing this, one of the things that the FAA requires in order for us to have people certified to use this is you have to have procedures in place prior to deploying an unmanned aerial vehicle like we're doing. And so in this instance, we've sat down prior, it went through our policy review committee. We came up with standard operating procedures and procedures on how it will be used. This is the first step in this and what we'll be doing because, again, we want to learn how to use the technology, and this is one of the easiest ways to do that, to get us out there and get us practice with it and get us developing that is on these accident scenes. And so there's nothing that we could do that with the technology that would violate the law. I mean, we're held accountable just like anybody else. So if we're violating the Fourth Amendment, we're going to be held accountable to that. But right now, it is our intent to use it to assist with investigating the accident scenes, and then as we learn and use that, expand into other crime scenes, and then possibly at some point maybe use it at special events, large crowds, things of that nature to get a more aerial view of what's going on for safety reasons. That'd be further down the road, but that's our intent right now, is to start with the accidents.
And Chief, do we have to expand, like as we're expanding the program, we have to expand our procedures specifically on how we'll use the aircraft?
Absolutely. Right now, the standard operating procedures are specifically applying to the accidents. But there is verbiage in there that would us allow to expand beyond that. If we did that, if, for example, we wanted to use it for special events, we would have to update those SOPs to make sure that we're, following the guidelines and the rules and not violating any FAA rules and things like that too.
How are we going to educate the public on these procedures?
My plan is once we get these, before we deploy them, to use social media and also, through our public information office, we're planning on getting the word out and making sure the public knows that we're about to deploy these and what we'll be using them for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to 7K3. Councilwoman Nice, you wanted to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. I'll go ahead and pick up that one. And what was this one? Oh, this is the Healthy Neighborhood Overlay. So I do want to make mention again that we did send the notices out to over 7,000 residents. And I know we had this conversation at our Planning Commission meeting, and in my opinion, it seems as some of our residents may be a little concerned and or just unaware of how the Healthy Neighborhood Overlay works. So I just wanted to make mention and ensure that this is not a permanent overlay district. What we want to do is measure the health outcomes for Ward 7 when it comes to just specifically 73111. And again, as we know, the morbidity rates, the cancer rates, the infant mortality, the maternal mortality, all of those rates are highest in 73111. So this Healthy Neighborhood Overlay is for us to measure healthier outcomes, and also we do want to try to seal a grocery option and have better health access for our residents that live within 73111, because there is not a single grocery store in that one zip code of 7,000 residents. So again, this Healthy Neighborhood Overlay is not permanent. This is just something for now, and as soon as we are able to measure better health outcomes in that particular zip code, we will come back to the table and ask for it to be removed, because we know once we can improve one zip code, we can also improve the city. So I just wanted to make mention of that Healthy Neighborhood Overlay again. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that'll bring us to item N, the irrevocable letter of credit and dedications at Sienna Ridge. And maybe we'll amend that and then maybe go ahead and just vote on it separately. Amanda?
So it's not actually an amendment. What the City Attorney's Office and Public Works are recommending is, because this entity approves or denies plat, that this entity vote to approve the irrevocable letter of credit, and as to all of the area except for the stub location where the One Oak infrastructure is located. As to the stub location for the One Oak infrastructure, then it would be denied as to that, and it would be noted on the plat that that is a private portion of that street. It's not accepted as a public street.
So procedurally, how do we need to?
So the vote would be to approve the item as to everything except for the location of the stub, or the location of the One Oak infrastructure.
But that's not an amendment.
It's not technically an amendment. It's an approval or denial. That's the portion you're approving.
Then do we have to deny the other, or we just, by not speaking to it, we denied it?
You're essentially accepting the dedications, excluding the street stub where it crosses the One Oak gas line, is what you're doing.
Okay.
If you just make the motion along those lines, and the applicant will make a note on the plat, will add a note to the plat, as David mentioned.
So Larry, do you want to make a motion as basically adopting what Kenny just
Accept the
articulated?
dedications except for the street stub crossing the One Oak gas line easement.
I move such a,
Got it.
A motion.
Motion and a second. We're pulling the item out for a separate vote. Is there any other discussion on it? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving back through the consent docket. I believe the next thing for discussion is 7AB2. Councilwoman Nice.
With AB2, I'll just pick up AB2 and 5, if that's okay. We want to just talk about the street resurfacing that's happening on North Sooner Road from Northeast 36th Street to East Wilshire. So we're excited about the $2.8 million. So when this is complete, we will have 6 full miles of resurface on Sooner Road. And we've had a whole lot of phone calls about Sooner Road. They're in this area. With previous council members for Ward 7 as well. So we are very excited about the street resurfacing. And also, for those who travel North Santa Fe Avenue from 122nd to the Kilpatrick Turnpike, I must say, I'm excited about that one. So we're going to get some street resurfacing for that area too. So both of those areas are well traveled, and we are excited about those street resurfacing projects. So I just wanted to make mention of those. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I will make mention of 7AG, the only order of business that we had in our resolution regarding the MAPS 4 program that was to be accomplished before the vote of the people on December 10th was a formalization of the donation that had been offered by the Arnall Family Foundation and Sue Ann Arnall of $20 million for an operating endowment for the Diversion Hub project. And so that is the item here at 7AG, an MOU with the Arnall Family Foundation to that effect. And she has in fact already deposited that money at the Oklahoma City Community Foundation. So certainly sincere gratitude for her commitment to that project and that generous donation to a potential MAPS 4. So certainly wanted to acknowledge that. I believe that brings us to AT. Craig, Chief was going to speak to that. Speaking of donations.
Chief Gorley is going to speak to the donation from the Kilpatrick family.
Wade Gorley, Chief of Police. This is basically a donation from the Kirkpatrick Family Fund that we've been getting since 1995 to send 2 of our upper-level commanders to the Police Executive Research Foundation in Boston. PERF, as they're commonly known, is a think tank that agencies from around the country send their people to prepare them for upper-level management. It's a 3-week course. I've attended it myself. It's much more thought-provoking in dealing with issues of leadership, and they bring in, lots of people from outside law enforcement, which I think makes it very good to get different perspectives on how to run organizations and how to look at problems from different perspectives. We often will analyze something, that's happened maybe in the private sector and analyze how that occurred and learn leadership skills and things from it. And again, it's a 3-week training course. Very beneficial. It's also a requirement if you want to be in upper-level command at any police department around the country, especially if you ever want to apply for a police chief job. You either have to have attended PERF or the FBI Academy. And so it's beneficial to have our upper-level commanders, captain and above, is usually who are eligible to attend this course.
Great.
I have a question. So how are people selected to go to the training?
What happens is when I took over as chief, I updated because we'd had so many promotions in recent years. And so captains and above will submit a request to attend either PERF or FBI, and they'll put in their request if they want one or the other or both, or if they have attended one already. And then we look at, since we only get the 2 spots each year, we look at a lot of times how much time they've had in their rank, and then their availability to attend, being gone that long. A lot of times, some people say, well, I can't do it this year, but maybe I could do it next year. And so that's kind of how that process works.
And so who are they submitting the request to?
They submit their request to me, and then we discuss it among the executive staff. We also discuss it with those that have submitted their requests, especially if they've never been to one or the other. That's one of the things I look at first to see, who would be eligible to attend. And then again, factor into their time and rank. Some people don't want to attend, some don't want to promote maybe beyond the captain level, and they're happy doing that, and they don't want to be gone for that long. So not everybody puts in for it, but the majority of them do.
Are you encouraging participation among those who have not in previous years applied to go?
We try. I mean, I'm not going to twist their arm or anything. I mean, I put out and make sure they knew once I became chief that these resources are now available, and if you want to be considered for that, then submit a request to me. And I think the majority did. I think there was only a couple that didn't, but the majority did put in and asked to be considered.
Do we have numbers of like the demographics of folks who have gone? Specifically, I think when I think about making sure people have opportunities for those promotions, I think about how it's quoted that to get a woman to apply for a promotion or push for a promotion, you usually have to tell her 5 or 6 times, whereas men will typically do it regardless of their qualifications, regardless of what their resume looks like. So I think my concern is making sure that we're really making sure people feel the support to apply, as well as encouraging folks to apply, especially if they come from kind of whether they're female, just the minority of people who serve in our police force. And especially if they're kind of not in that next level of leadership, allowing for those opportunities to move up. So I'm curious, do we have demographics of folks who have gone in the past?
I'm glad you asked the question that way, because I think maybe I misunderstood what you were looking at in this. Our promotional system is actually steered and driven by our FOP contract, our collective bargaining agreement. There's a process that you have to go through at each promotional rank, and this does not negate someone from going through that process or moving up. As they get into the higher ranks, this becomes very, very beneficial for them to attend. It does not prevent them from participating or being promoted up in the process. That's not what this does. It's just an educational process for them that will benefit them as they move up through the ranks. It's not a requirement. So if I have a captain who says they don't want to participate in this, they can still participate in the major's promotional process. I have a major, one of the individuals that's going to the FBI Academy this year is now a major, and he's never been to either one, and that's why he got first choice in going, and he's going to the FBI Academy. So he'll now have one of the major requirements to be a chief of police at some point. And so it is a requirement. It was listed as a requirement when I applied for the chief's job to have attended one of these. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's not going to prevent someone from moving up through our ranks. And at some point, and if they, especially, obviously majors and deputy chiefs, if they haven't been to either one, are probably going to get a priority, because they're likely to be looking at applying at a chief's job either here or maybe with another organization. So I hope that answers your question a little better.
To an extent, but I'm still curious if we do have demographics of folks who have attended. Because it looks like this has been happening since 1995, so I'd be curious if we have a sense of the demographics, sex, age, race, ethnicity, that sort of thing, of people who have attended, and whether there's ways that we can really specifically target those who haven't to really encourage those folks to participate and apply.
Mostly what you're going to see right now, I have a list of everybody that's attended and who's been. I mean, what you're going to see right now, because we have had such a turnover in our upper command levels. We've had a lot of retirements over the years. Is what you're going to see is people that have not been at these ranks very long. They're the ones that probably do not have this training yet. And so, and we've got quite a few new captains, several new majors, and then of course all of us at the deputy chief and chief level are fairly new too, but we've been at those other ranks and had opportunities to attend. And again, this comes up every year. This isn't a one-time shot. Sure. You know, we're going to send 3 people, 1 person to FBI and 2 people to PERF next year too, and it's not going to limit them from going up in the interim. If they happen not to attend these, they're still going to have the opportunities to move up. But I can get you a list of all of my staff and who's been, but that's what you're going to see is unless it's somebody who's been at that rank for a while and just doesn't want to go, you're going to see that most of the people that haven't been are fairly new in their particular rank.
Yeah, I'd like to see that list if you can.
I'd like that too, please.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments for the chief on this? Okay.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'd like to make a comment. I had one of my constituents actually recently had some items stolen from his business, and had some great video of it. And working with Chief, we were able to take that video, again, it was very high quality video, and get it placed on the Oklahoma City Police Facebook page. And I got an email from him yesterday that at least a vehicle, the truck, was returned. It was found by the Oklahoma City Police. So I appreciate your help in that, and I appreciate everything you and the officers do for us every day. Thanks.
Thank you. Glad we could help out. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that concludes items that anybody wanted to speak to. Unless there's something else, we could entertain a motion to adopt all the items except for item N, which is previously adopted. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Brings us to item 8, the concurrence docket. We have items A through L. We could take with one motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Councilman McAtee is, there we go, okay. All right, passes unanimously. Now we're on page 22 of your printed agenda, item 9, items requiring separate votes. We'll begin at item A. These are ordinances on final hearing that were recommended for approval at the Planning Commission. Item 9A1 is at 300 Northeast 3rd Street, going from Downtown Business District to Downtown Business District with historic landmark overlay. Councilwoman Nice.
Yes, this is a project that we are extremely excited about as far as approval for the historic landmark of the Lyons Mansion. A lot of us know it as the Luster Mansion, but again, I gave you a brief history about SD Lyons as it was introduced to, before it was introduced to Planning Commission. But again, I want you to realize and understand that Mr. Lyons was obviously ahead of his time when he came to Oklahoma and opened the East India Toilet Goods Factory, and also built that home that you see on Northeast 3rd and Central. And when he passed away, he was one of the richest men in Oklahoma in the 1950s. So with that, we are excited about what's to come, and I'm going to ask that we move for approval. And this has an emergency for 5 affirmative votes.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. And you're saying you want to also do an emergency? Is that?
It has an emergency.
Was that a
It's on
separate
final
vote,
hearing
Francis?
For emergency.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it takes all 7.
Okay, all right, so it'll be a second vote after the first.
Yes.
All right, we've got a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then you'd like to move an emergency.
Move the emergency.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously and with the required 7 votes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 9A2 at 112 Northeast 52nd Street, going from R1 to I2. Councilwoman Nice.
And this is also an ordinance on final hearing as well for approval. And do we have anyone present to speak on this? No. Okay. With that, I'll move for approval.
Okay, got a motion for approval. And a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
And we'll move the emergency.
Okay. I've got a motion for an emergency. There's a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously and with the required 7 votes. 9A3 at 6000 Northwest 23rd Street, going from C3 to I1. Councilman McAtee.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Is the applicant present?
Are you the applicant? Would you like to speak? I have nothing to say. Okay. I'm here in case you needed any questions. Okay.
Well, I'd like the applicant to come forward, or a representative, to brief us on what the intentions are.
I guess this is the closest we're going to get. Councilman McAtee would like you to say a few words about the project.
This project is of great excitement to me as well. It's my son and daughter-in-law, and they are converting, or intend to convert, the property into a bakery facility from which they will ship their product across the country, and they're doing it now out of California, eager to come to Oklahoma. There will be probably in the vicinity of 100 employees. They will be doing some reconstruction, but it's a former Walmart, so it's a great facility. They won't need all of it to begin with. They're excited to be back to Oklahoma. Did I answer what you asked?
Are you intending to take over the entire footprint of the old Walmart, or just part of it?
Yes, all of it. They're purchasing all of it.
And what provisions have been made for transportation of the products in and out? They'll be using semis?
Yes, they will be, and there's already the loading dock there at the facility.
What attention did the Planning Commission give to the traffic increase that this would provide or create?
I had no questions about the traffic, and I don't really know the answer to that. The Planning Commission didn't query me about that.
Okay. Those are the only questions that I had. Does the council have any?
I mean, I would guess that it would be less traffic than what the Walmart was, wouldn't you say?
The problem is the intersections with the interstates that the trailers with semis will be using are congested right now, and I was looking for a feel for that.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, James. Has anybody signed up, Francis? Yeah, well, unless the council has some questions, I move for approval.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
9A4 is at 3012 South Sarah Road, going from PUD 1453 to PUD 1735. Councilman McAtee, and there are a couple of people who've signed up to speak.
Okay, the applicant present. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with the council, is have the applicant present the project, and then you say somebody has signed up?
Yeah, 2 protesters.
Okay, we'll allow them to speak, and then come back and answer any questions.
Sure. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive. This is a PUD application that is frankly made necessary because of the Turnpike project that is currently going on in the western part of the city. Kendall Dillon, the civil engineer on this project, and myself on behalf of Anthony Merzai, who is the landowner here, came and rezoned this a few years ago for a host of uses. At the time, we zoned everything you see as Tract 1 and 2, the land that was the Turnpike, and the land east of it. And it was going to be a mixed-use community where all the residential connected to the commercial, connected to the higher density residential. The Turnpike has come through and completely bisected Mr. Merzai's land. He's going to have to kind of rework the whole development. The ability to connect from the east to the west has now been destroyed. A significant portion of the commercial and the multifamily was taken as part of the Turnpike project. And so when you look at the old way the PUD was laid out, it simply doesn't work anymore after the Turnpike has come through. So what we've sought to do through the PUD is rework kind of the northwest portion of the development. We'll have to come back and replat the eastern portion later. But we reworked the uses that, frankly, were already allowed. Redid the commercial, redid the multifamily in a manner that will now work in the after condition. This was continued at the Planning Commission to allow us to go meet with the protesters, which we did do. And we weren't able to accommodate anything that they had concerns on at Planning Commission. It was a unanimous 9-0 recommendation for approval. Staff also does recommend approval because it is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
A little bit of history. The intersection that you see at the top of your diagram right there is of Southwest 29th and Sarah Road. And Sarah Road is a major artery between Oklahoma City and Mustang, and has been a thorn in everybody's side for as long as I've been on council, since 2001. Sarah Road is going to be widened in a joint project between the state of Oklahoma and Oklahoma City up to Southwest 59th. From Southwest 59th further south on Sarah Road, it's going to be widened by the state and the city of Mustang. This is to alleviate a major problem congestion situation that we have. And you'll notice right under Track 2, to the south of Track 2, there is a school there, which when it brings the students in the morning and picks them up in the afternoon, creates one of the major traffic jams in Oklahoma City. We're hoping that by going to a 4-lane of Sarah Road, this will alleviate that. So there are other entities at play in this, and as David said, the reason for this was the fact that it was all platted, all agreed to ahead of time before the turnpike came in and put its footprint on it.
Yeah, that's right. The timing was problematic for our client. He had not only zoned it, but he had had a preliminary plat done, and I think several phases of a final plat. And it wasn't more than a couple weeks after that that he received notification from the Turnpike Authority that they would be condemning his land.
And so from a historical perspective, there are two major traffic problems that I inherited back in 2001. One was the intersection on the interstate of Morgan Road. That's now been resolved. And the second one was widening of Sarah Road, which we didn't have the money nor the traffic census to justify it back then, but it does meet those criteria now. So with that, we said there was a citizen supposed to be heard. If you...
Amber Hopick. Elaine Shine, yes. Okay.
Thank you for hearing me. My concern is just for the school, the Track 2. Their proposal is to put apartment complex there. I just feel very concerned for the kids that that go to that school because of the fact of the school shootings and perpetual problems that could happen if they build a apartment complex, because you don't know who might live there. There could be predators, as pedophiles, or anybody could take one of those little kids. If he does put apartments, I would propose them to have no windows facing that school, just so there wouldn't be any opportunity for for someone to either shoot a kid or any type of activity like that. And that's my proposal for the building, not to have windows facing that school, and a high fence along that border between the school and that Track 2 property. Could that possibly be a proposal that you would accept him to do on that land?
Well, let's hear the other part.
And also the congested highway, or the congested road at Sarah Road. It's just over congested, and there's no real crosswalks for kids to be safe to cross that busy street. It's just way too busy at this time.
Thank you for your comment.
And my grandson crosses that every day. And not too long ago, I was coming to pick up my daughter, and I saw them cross that road because they had an activity at that school at 5 at night, and somebody almost hit my little grandson. So I just feel really concerned about that. And I own the property at 10616 Southwest 22nd Street. That's my personal property. My daughter is living there right now at that property with her family, but I'm just concerned for the safety of the kids in that area.
Thank you.
And the students and the parents as well.
Thank you, Ms. Shine.
Any questions from the council for her?
No, and I didn't understand. Amber Hopek is not here?
Yeah, Amber Hopek's my daughter. She's the one that's living at that 109.
Okay, but she doesn't wish to speak?
Yeah, she wants to speak.
Okay.
She's with her kids.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
just have to leave right
Okay.
now. Thank you.
Hi, sorry about that.
Sure.
My name is Amber Hopek, H-O-P-K. I'm here protesting the proposal for Track 2 because of the safety of the school right behind it. There's a playground would be right behind the area of the school. What I propose to be done would be to have no windows facing the school area because there are kids that play out in front of the school on a regular basis. You could pass by there anytime and there'd be kids playing in front of the school, behind the school, and it's concerning to have something so close to a school and have no real barrier between it. There's no trees. There's a small green space that is fenced off for flooding concerns and stuff like that, but there's nothing protecting the kids from that area. What I would want would be at least like a 10-foot high fence to to help prevent people from seeing over the fence, and then no windows facing that area. I spoke to the school board and to the superintendent of Mustang Public Schools and talked to the principal also about this proposal. And I know he said that he was in contact, or the person under him was in contact with the board member of our area. So those are my concerns, is just the safety of the kids mainly that go there. I have a student there right now, and I will have 4 more coming up after that one. So I've 1 in 2 years, and then 3 years, and then so on. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real briefly, I will note that the way that Track 2 will interface with the school track, you'll have there'll be a fence on our southern property line. Then there'll be a 5-foot landscape buffer. The way that the code requires building heights as it relates to abutting the school, it'll be a 60-foot swath that will be no more than single story. So the code allows for a scale and height. The closer you are to the school and that residential, it'll be single story, and then it'll gradually get higher as you move away from it. So we do believe that we have all the appropriate measures in here. I think a 10-foot high wall is not a good thing. I think having eyes on areas like this is probably better. The code would not allow a 10-foot high wall anyways. We do account for a fence requirement within the PUD, and we'd ask for your approval.
David, prior to this go-around, this plot was looked at before the turnpike was placed just to the north. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And so any concerns that the school people had on safety would have been addressed also at that point.
Correct.
And then because of the turnpike, we're going through this iteration again and addressing it again to make it fit with the turnpike.
Yes, sir.
So with that, any questions from the council?
Say something in addition to that, real fast. When I spoke to the school board, not a lot of the members were aware of it, and the school in the area wasn't fully aware of the area or of it either. So it's not really known for the students, the teachers, and the school board. When I spoke to the superintendent, he knew, but none of the school board members knew it was brought awareness to it while I was there.
All right, thank you. Larry?
Any questions or comments from the council? If not, because of the historical work that's been done on this up to this point, and the evaluation it has, and the progress that's been made, and the purpose of it, I move for approval.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming down.
Okay, we've got 9A5. This is at 2301 Northwest 145th Street, going from PUD 1577 to PUD 1738. Councilman Stonecipher's not here. I don't know if anybody, did he?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Got it.
This is a permit request for an elementary school. There were no protests at Planning Commission. Has anyone signed up to speak today? Thank you. And the Planning Commission recommended approval. So unless anyone has any questions, with that, I would move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9A6 is at 923 West Britton Road, going from C4 to SPUD 1155. Councilwoman Nice?
Do we have anyone signed up to speak to this?
Nope.
All right. With this, I move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
We also have an emergency on this.
Okay. Councilwoman Nice moves for an emergency.
Are they asking for an emergency on this one?
It says on final hearing, emergency recommended, but we can move for emergency. I'll move for emergency since I made the motion.
Okay, so it always says, it's just this listed there as an option, right?
Correct.
The Planning Commission didn't take a vote on an emergency. No, just so you know. We have a motion and a second on the table for an emergency. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We have 9A7 at 11438 Southwest 11th Street, going from R3M to SPUD 1158. Councilman McAtee?
Yes, is the applicant present? If you would give the council a brief overview of what you're intending to do here.
This is Section 7 of Sycamore Creek, and that piece that's outlined there with the dashed line was just zoned R3. It's going to be just single-family development, just to match what's going on back to the west.
Any thoughts at the Planning Commission over the lot size of 4,000 as opposed to the 6,000 R1 normal lot size?
No, that's what the other lots in that area are already. That's what the market is in that neighborhood. So it's just a continuation of the same thing that's already going on.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Anybody signed up?
No.
No, sir.
Any of the council have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. 9B is an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval for a special permit. This is a special permit to permit a high-impact institutional use rehabilitation hospital in the O2 General Office District at 10240 Broadway Extension. Councilwoman Nice?
Yes, did anyone speak for this? All right. With that, I'll move for approval.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we move on to 9C, an ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, closing a portion of Southwest 2nd Street between Chartel and Dewey. Councilwoman Hammond.
Francis, has anyone signed up to? No. So this is just closing parts of 2nd Street that are essentially rendered useless given the boulevard, the OKC Boulevard cutting through. So I will move for approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9D, ordinance on final hearing that was recommended for approval, closing a utility easement at 5700 Northwest 130th Street. Councilman Stone, did you also pick this one up?
Yeah, this is just closing a utility easement, closing it for office development, no protests at Planning Commission. Planning Commission recommended for approval. So with that, I would move for approval unless anyone has any questions.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9E, ordinances on final hearing. This one, 9E1, is removing 60-degree angle parking on the east side of Willow Springs Avenue. Councilman Cooper. Councilman Cooper? Parking? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. And then 9E2 is removing a reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the east side of Willow Springs Avenue, et cetera. Councilman Cooper. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9F. This is the second of 3 meetings on this proposed ordinance change. This is a public hearing regarding an ordinance relating to miscellaneous provisions and offenses. It actually is the concept of adding exit to the list of areas not to be obstructed. This is merely the public hearing. It was explained at the last meeting. Will be voted on at a future meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak under this public hearing? Seeing none, we'll move on to 9G1. This is a public hearing regarding ordinance number 25081, approving and adopting the amended and restated Northeast Renaissance Redevelopment Project Plan. Maybe we'll start with presentation? Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Item G on your agenda today is the...
Oh, I'll get it after this.
Is he going to say what he needs to say
now?
now?
Words. Yes. But you do your presentation, and then we'll kind of have the public hearing, and I'll say the magic words.
So this is the public hearing on ordinance number 25,081, approving and adopted the amended and restated project plan for the Northeast Renaissance TIF District. Go ahead. If you recall, this TIF district was adopted in 2015, and it expires in 2041. It primarily covers the commercial corridors along Northeast 23rd Street, Kelly Avenue, and Martin Luther King. The increment that is not to exceed 25 years is to come from ad valorem or property tax payments that were estimated at the time of adoption between 27 and 30 million, and sales tax increments of between 28 and 32 million. This is just to go through the maps that were originally approved as a part of the original TIF district. This is the project area. So if you recall, with TIF districts, you have 2 different areas. The project area is where you can spend the money, and the increment area is where you generate the tax revenues from. So this is the project area for the Northeast Renaissance TIF district, and it encompassed the JFK urban renewal area plus the Northeast Renaissance urban renewal area boundaries. This map shows the increment area. As I mentioned before, this is the area from which the tax revenues can be generated. And then finally, this is a map that shows both of those things together. The original objectives in the TIF project plan were to assist, again, with the implementation of the JFK and the Northeast Renaissance urban renewal plans. They were to redevelop and revitalize the area, to promote economic development and create new jobs, to stimulate new investment, to preserve and enhance the tax base in the area, and to provide development opportunities for the other taxing entities in the increment district. We proposed a variety of amendments to capture some development parcels that have come to our attention since the original adoption of the project plan. All of these amendments I've showed to you in a presentation that I did several months ago before we kicked off the process to get all of the approvals and recommendations that have to be accomplished before it can come back to the City Council. So the proposed amendments were to establish a separate increment area east of Bryant Avenue for future projects. We had a project that was approved at Northeast 23rd and Coltrane, if some of you were on the council at the time. And at that time, many of you expressed a concern that development in that area may not occur for several more years and wanted to establish a separate increment area for that very far east part of this TIF district. We also wanted to establish some additional increment areas where we knew that development was about to happen. The new increment areas that are labeled B and C can be, on the maps that I'll show you in just a minute, can be initiated up to 10 years from the date of the original adoption of the project plan. So 10 years from the date in 2015 that the TIF district was originally approved. So this is the map that kind of shows you the original TIF district is labeled as A, and then we have designated areas B, which are several smaller parcels that are scattered throughout the project area, and then an additional, the Area C, which is that area far to the east, east of Bryant Avenue, that we anticipate that development will happen at some time in the future. In addition to the changes for that future Area C, we will also expand the project area when that increment area is initiated at some point in the future. So just to go through some of the new smaller increment areas that are proposed for inclusion. The first one is Creston Hills School. This is a former Oklahoma City public school that has been donated to the city of Oklahoma City. We hope that in the near future, the Urban Renewal Authority can assist the city in the redevelopment of this school and put it back to good use. And the second one is another former Oklahoma City public school, formerly known as Harmony School, more recently known as Marcus Garvey School. This school has already been transferred to the Oklahoma City Urban Renewal Authority. We have issued a request for proposals and have identified a developer for it to convert the school into senior affordable housing. And then finally, this area, well, not finally, but an additional area is at 36th and Lincoln. This area is included as a part of the development that we'll talk about in item number H, but it includes the site at 36th and Lincoln for the proposed homeland development. Another area is along 26th and Martin Luther King that has been identified as a potential for commercial development next to a property that is owned by the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. And then this is finally a series of properties at 23rd, just east of I-235, where the former armory is located. It's owned by the state of Oklahoma. There are a couple of other parcels that we think are prime for redevelopment and that could help to support the overall success of the Northeast Renaissance TIF district. So again, the plan will establish separate increment areas east of Bryant for future projects and add the additional increment areas that I just went through. The plan will retain and create new jobs by stimulating new investment in Oklahoma City and help to preserve and enhance the tax base by providing development opportunities for the other taxing entities in the increment district. This chart is just to show you the changes in the budget. In the purple is the original increment budget for TIF District number 9. That was originally adopted as $45 million. It will be amended so that the budget for District 9, again, remember, we split off a portion of that into letter C, area letter C. So the new budget for District number 9 is $31 million. District B will be $19 million. District C will be a total of $12 million, for an overall total in this TIF district of $62 million. So we're increasing the overall TIF budget to accommodate this additional private investment that we anticipate will take place in the area.
And just to clarify, on the budget, that's basically a budgeted amount. It doesn't create the increment amount. It's a budget that allows us to manage that based on the estimated increment that we would have. We'd still have to get the increment.
We still have to generate the increment, and we have to remember that this is a budget for a 25-year time horizon. It isn't an annual budget. It is the budget for the entire life of the TIF, and it sets kind of the maximum amount of increment that can be expended from this TIF district.
So I got a question about the schools weren't paying any property tax to begin with.
Right.
And so is the increment all of it? That now that it's going, once it does get developed, will it basically, the increment is everything above zero?
Yes. Okay. That's exactly right, which is one of the reasons why it's good to include those schools, because they do generate they will generate some new tax revenues. Yeah. And actually, even the location at 36th and Lincoln, most of that property is under state ownership at this point in time, so it's not generating any tax revenues either. So the potential impacts of the changes, The public revenue anticipated to result from the development described in the plan includes increased tax revenues, both inside and outside the increment district. So typically what happens with a tax increment project is that we also see improvements in values outside the boundaries of the increment area. So if you think about downtown, the areas just outside of the downtown have also seen quite a bit of new investment and growth in property values. We also believe that the economic benefits of the plan for the affected taxing jurisdictions and the community as a whole offset any adverse financial impacts, if any, of the plan on the other taxing jurisdictions. So just to go through a little bit of the process, these changes were considered by the TIF Review Committee in October 10th of 2019. The Planning Commission also reviewed these changes for conformance with the Oklahoma City Comprehensive Plan on October 24th, 2019. It's being introduced today at City Council. There will also be a subsequent hearing on December 17th. And that is all that I have on the TIF amendments.
Thank you. And
you need to say some official.
Yeah, right. I need to make a formal statement about the hearing. Okay, so there will be 2 public hearings on the amendments to the Northeast Renaissance Economic Development Project Plan. The first is being held today, December 3rd, 2019, and a second public hearing will be held at the City Council meeting held in these chambers on December 17th, 2019 at 8:30 a.m. The primary purpose of the first hearing today, December 3rd, will be for staff to provide information and to answer questions. The purpose of the second public hearing on December 17th is to give any interested persons the opportunity to express their views on the proposed plan or amendment thereto prior to final approval by the City Council. Having said that, of course we will, of course people, yes, I understand. Believe me, I knew it was coming, Michael. So having said that, of course, we will still allow people to speak today, and maybe now is a good time. Michael Washington.
Thank you, everyone. Absurdity, absurdity. You know what this is designed to do? It ain't gonna work. Let me get comfortable. I know I got 3 minutes. We'll have some fun quality. You know what this is all designed to do? Miss City Councilwoman Nice? It's designed to help the innovation district to come on in. Let's not be foolish with this. Come on now, let's be serious, lady. Yeah, you understand what I'm talking about? It just ain't gonna happen. Number one, you're going to increase the tax increment finance district from 45 to 62 million. You want to know why? That's to help the other developers who wants to come in, even though it's over a 25-year period. Let me slow down because I'm a little bit excited this morning. Let me say it like this here. We, the African-American community, is not going to accept this flagrant disregard of our ability to independence. We're not going to allow this innovation district to come in. It's already with this so-called, I don't know how much money is supposed to be going to them in this vote on the 10th, but let me tell y'all something. It's not going to work. You're not going to come into the east side and steal everything we got, including our Freedom Center. Y'all not going to do any of that. Now, the intent of this whole tax increment finance increase is designed, I haven't seen one black face out of the since 2015 that's receiving this TIF money. And if it is, I haven't gotten any of it, and I'm going to start asking for it since I know it's going to be increased. And if I don't get it, we're going to file a lawsuit for discrimination. Why? It ain't going to be about because I don't have money. Because first of all, you can't use taxpayers' dollars to say we're going to give our friends something, and everybody ain't got nothing, don't get it. Don't work like that, does it? Why? When I have a program, you ready for this one? That's designed to create jobs, as this lady just spoke about. Now, are we to just let them create the jobs and nobody else? I don't think that work does it now. That's not due process, is it? That's the city protecting its own. And I've also done the research, are y'all ready for this one? On the Oklahoma Memorial, with the tragic situation with Tim McVeigh, Oklahoma Memorial. Y'all don't own it, but y'all gave them millions of dollars. Is this a discrimination process going on here? You want my Freedom Center, again, with this money, you want to take and own my Freedom Center, but you don't own this Memorial Gardens over here and all these people? Wait a minute now. Hold up. Let me say, in closing, I am against this tax increment finance money. Now, all of a sudden, we want to increase the value in money on this particular project, created since 2015, which I had seen no part of money of. I've seen all developers from the outside coming in, creating businesses, especially on the 23rd Street Strip, millions of dollars, and I haven't seen one black face, and maybe if it is, I'm going to be mad at them for not telling me if it did happen like that. So again, I am against this tax increment finance increase for the purpose of its flagrant and recklessly disregard of the African-American community. Right now, we as African-Americans are the only minority group in the state of Oklahoma. Are you ready for this? I do my research. They really don't have anything we can lay claim to. It's all a continuation process that started way back in the early 1800s when the Indians came in and when they were doing the Trail of Tears. Watch out, and I told you I do my studies. It's all designed to keep me down as a people and me depending upon you and your developing friends, outside developers. Well, sir, you got somebody here today going to stop all of that. I'm tired of this. Every time I wake up, the community is desecrated, is decimated, with blighted areas. Been here, come people on the outside. We need somebody on the outside to save us. Really? How come I can't save myself? Give me money, let me save myself again. I'm against it, and we will file a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak under the public hearing?
If you don't mind, I'd like to say a couple of things.
Sure, of course.
First of all, when it comes to TIF 9, I just want us to make sure we understand Innovation District has their own separate TIF. It has nothing to do with TIF 9, and I'll let you speak. Also, when we're looking at page 12 and 13 and 14, the reason that this was increased to $62 million was because I asked for us to ensure that we had funds improved and increased for public improvements and development for the community that resides within TIF 9. So I just want to make sure and make clear of the reason for the increase is so that money can go back into the community for public improvements and development.
I have a few questions. Who is on the TIF review committee, and is that a city commissioner board? Is that part of the alliance?
No, they're appointed by the city council, so they represent each of the different taxing jurisdictions, so Oklahoma County, the school district, the VOTEC, the libraries, the health department. There's a representative from the city council, which is the mayor, who serves as the chairman. There's a representative from the planning commission, and then there's 3 members that are appointed at large that represent the business community.
Okay. Thank you.
And they were appointed at the beginning of the creation, and it's been explained to me, I can't really.
Yeah. So they were appointed in 2015.
Okay. So is there a different one for each?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yep.
And also to add to that, one of our at-large members is our previous councilman, John Pettis, who was the creator of this TIF.
And then can you go back to the map of the boundaries?
Sure.
Just curious about something that I seem to remember from the previous presentation, but I just wanted to clarify, because I seem to remember there was discussion about that far east kind of portion. So that's what is happening as we're designating that as C to kind of separate it from, okay.
Except for the
from what's
rectangle that's
I-35.
identified as A.
Okay.
And that's because we've already approved a project in that area, so we need to keep it
Gotcha.
in the part that's already, the clock is already started on.
Okay, so the previous map would have, the what's in green would have just been the whole thing.
It would have just been in red,
Would have
yeah.
been, okay. Just wanted to clarify.
And to also add to that, that A that is in that Part C, that is an African-American or minority-owned business that will be developing right there. And also, when we're looking at what has already been developed, there is an African-American or minority that is a part of the money that has been for these projects that have already been placed.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone else wish to speak under the public hearing? You can only get one shot at it. Okay, seeing none, I guess this is the ordinance to be introduced today. So I would entertain a motion to that effect for the item at G2. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Okay. So that's introduced today, and as stated here, that will be set for a final hearing on December 17th. Moving on to 9H. This is a joint resolution with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust to be introduced and set for public hearing and final consideration on December 17th, approving an allocation of $4.4 million from Increment District B. And we have a presentation on this, correct?
Yes.
So this item is approving an allocation, a resolution that approves an allocation for the development at 36 and Lincoln that will be the location for the Homeland grocery store and the corporate headquarters. The site will also include the location for the Northeast Senior Wellness Center. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background about who the developer is on this project. The developer is a single-purpose entity that's been just named 36th and Lincoln LLC. It's made up of the Endeavor Corporation, East Smith Communities, and the Alliance for Economic Development. We will develop the property, and the store and the headquarters will be leased to Homeland and HAC, which is their corporate entity. I wanted to give you a little bit of background about the development team. The Endeavor Corporation is a nationally recognized development company with over $500 million in projects across the country. Randy Roth is the principal of that company. He could not be here today because he had a death in the family and had to travel to Canada for the funeral. They are a premier developer that has a great deal of experience with the New Market Tax Credit Program, and this project will include an allocation of New Markets tax credits to help provide some of the equity needed for the project. They are a grocery store development specialist that have worked in many different markets, working with different cities and governmental entities to determine and develop strategies to help close grocery deals across the country. This is just an example of some of the projects that they've done. They've done a fresh market in Milwaukee that is a single-tenant grocery retailer. It was a $9 million New Markets tax credit deal. And then with that, I'd like to introduce Tamala Thornton today. Tamala is with East Smith Communities and has been working on this project with us for a very long time. We were talking about that earlier today. So I'd like Tamala to go over a little bit about her background and her involvement in the project.
Good morning, everyone. Tamala Thornton with East Smith Communities. I'm the president of the company. East Smith Communities is a company that's really focused on, from a development perspective, identifying opportunities in communities that have traditionally been overlooked and identifying ways to bring either health, education, wellness opportunities into those communities. And one of the tenets of our community is to undertake projects that will ultimately facilitate what I'm calling self-gentrification. And really what that is, it's a model whereby once there's some catalytic investment of a larger anchor tenant, often that being either a grocery store, a hospital, a wellness facility, a university education aspect, those types of investments typically allow other private investors to be able to obtain the capital to actually start businesses, smaller businesses, obtain the capital, or to participate in those projects that we're developing to obtain some of the skills, training, and background to allow them to be successful in the community. We essentially are working currently in Dallas, Texas, renovating a 30,000 square foot office building, which was formerly the headquarters of the Urban League. The Urban League left Dallas. We've taken that building and are leasing that space to the community college as well as other private uses to start that process of generating investment in the community. We have developed probably more than 650 million square feet of retail office space in Dallas, in Philadelphia, in Baltimore, including some residential uses with partners. Typically in our model, we will like to partner with other uses just to make sure that we can bring a holistic solution to a community. Communities is actually one of the operating companies, you can go to the next slide, of the East Smith Legacy Holdings business, which includes East Smith Advisors, which is a national brokerage business partnered with Newmark Knight Frank, East Smith Properties, which develops significantly larger projects, and Horizons, which is a finance team that traditionally is focused on public infrastructure. Chairman of our company is Emmett Smith. You all know who Emmett is, and I lead both communities as well as provide innovation thinking for the rest of the holdings company, and my partner, David Mosley, is the CFO and also runs the brokerage business. We are here in partnership, and our role in this project, since we have been working on it for a significant period of time, is to lead the effort in bringing private equity and financing to the team. And currently we have debt secured as well as probably 6 term sheets from other equity investors who are interested in participating in this project because of what it represents from a holistic delivery standpoint to the community. I'm going to let Kathy continue to talk about the structure of the project, and if there are any other questions, I'm welcome to answer them.
Well, I'll just say, I think I met you within weeks of becoming mayor. I know you've been at this for a long time. Thank you for your commitment to Northeast Oklahoma City.
Thank you.
So just to go into a little bit of details about the project at 36th and Lincoln. It will include a 30,000 square foot grocery store, a full service grocery store with a pharmacy, a 35,000 square foot corporate headquarters, new corporate headquarters for Homeland. The grocery store, again, will include bakery, deli, pharmacy, and it will provide 75 new full-time jobs to the community. This is just a look at the proposed location and kind of why it makes such good sense as a location in the Northeast community. Its proximity to the state capitol. It is on an Embark bus route, and we are in discussions with Embark about improving the bus stop and the location at 36 and Lincoln. It is in the Northeast Renaissance TIF district, or will be once the council hopefully after the council adopts the ordinance. It is in a food desert, and it also has been designated as an opportunity zone. The site will also include the MAPS 3 Senior Wellness Center. The site has been approved by both the subcommittee and the city council. The Senior Wellness Center will be about 40,000 square feet. The resolution that's before you today also includes an allocation of $1.3 million from the GOLT bond funds to help support the MAPS 3 funding that is required for the Senior Wellness Center. This is a proposed site plan. It is still in flux, and you may see some changes to it as we go through the construction of these various buildings on the site. But as you can see, the grocery store and the office building are located on the eastern part of the site, mostly in the grocery store's case, to accommodate truck traffic and the loading dock in a location that doesn't impact negatively on Lincoln Boulevard and the neighborhood. And then the office building is tucked behind, kind of to the east of the Senior Wellness Center. The project kind of has a long history. I've personally been working to try to bring a grocery store to Northeast Oklahoma City for, I think I figured out it's been about 21 years now. Willa Johnson, who's here today, Councilwoman Johnson, must have stepped out. But she was instrumental when we first started working on it, in addition to Skip Kelly, John Pettis, Lee Cooper, and of course, Councilwoman Nice. This is one of the primary reasons that this TIF district was created, was to try to solve the food desert problem in Northeast Oklahoma City. And I think we've come up with a good first step. The TIF structure, the request is for $4.4 million. The TIF funding will be provided up front to the project to flow through the New Markets tax credit structure. This allows us to take additional advantage of some of the New Markets tax credits to get more equity from that program. The upfront TIF allocation will be provided by the GOLT bond fund. As we pointed out earlier, there is no property tax generated on this site at this time. It is owned by the Commission of School Land Office, and I'd like to thank them for their cooperation and working out an exchange agreement where we will exchange this site for a participation in another piece of property, and eventually the city will end up owning the piece where the Senior Wellness Center is and the parking lots are, and the private developers will own the footprints of the store and the headquarters. We anticipate that the property tax increment in the first year will be about $90,000, and the projected sales tax increment will be about $242,000. We have done extensive grocery store demand studies on this site and believe that it is an excellent site with a very good demand profile. We estimate that we will be able to pay back that TIF allocation over about an 18-year period, so well before the TIF expires, and we've incorporated a 1.5% interest rate as we amortize that TIF allocation. This is just a look at the sources and uses where we are right now. We have a lender identified through National Cooperative Bank. The new markets tax credit allocation is about $4 million. We are, as Tamala mentioned, they are still looking through several different term sheets for equity investors, and then the Oklahoma City tax increment financing allocation of $4.4 million. We anticipate hard construction costs on the project of about $11.2 million, and tenant allowances and FF&E packages, especially for the grocery store, of about $2.3 million. And you can see the rest of the project costs on the screen. Just to go a little bit through the timeline, we are currently in design of both the grocery store and the headquarters. It's been a great process working with Homeland. They haven't built a new store from the ground up in probably 30 years, so it's been an interesting experience for them to get to design a new grocery store. And I don't think they've ever designed a corporate headquarters, so we're working through all those nuances about where people want to sit and things like that. So anyway, the design process is in progress. We anticipate that we will begin construction in March of 2020, and that in the spring of 2021, the grocery store will open, and I would expect the headquarters would open at about that time as well. Some of the upcoming approvals that are or things that have happened to date and things that are still to come include that this was reviewed by the TIF Review Committee on October 10th, 2019. It's introduced to council today. On the 17th, we will have the final hearing on the TIF allocation and the GOLT bond allocation. We also have several other agreements that have to be entered into in order for us to close on the new markets tax credits. Those include the economic development agreement with the private development team, a master development agreement because we will be building the parking lots for the Senior Wellness Center in advance of the construction of the Senior Wellness Center. And then there's an operations and easement agreement that sets out that we can all use the parking lots jointly for the operations of all the different uses on the property. I think with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I have a question. Can you explain what happened to the previous investor that we had, and where are we as far as being intentional to make sure and ensure that we have the same type or a minority investor for this project?
I'm going to let Tamala handle that.
One of the things that's interesting about investing these types of projects is that you're talking to multiple entities. The first entity that we were talking to, as they were evaluating the process, ended up deciding that from a timing standpoint and using Opportunity Zone funds as they had initially anticipated, it wasn't really going to fit their investment criteria. We are actually currently working with a private equity company, which is a minority-owned private equity company, to finance the equity position of this property, and then that will come along with other resources that we're bringing to the table. So the financing is coming from a minority-led company.
I just want to mention that I really appreciate Kathy's leadership on this and working with Councilman Nice. And this is just a project that's unlike any project that we've done that I can think of. Just all the different facets coming together, the complexity of the project, what we're putting into it financially, being able to combine it with the Wellness Center, that there's just a lot that's happening here. And I really appreciate the creativity and the work here. It's extra investment from the city, and there's still some things that we've got to work through, some challenges with that everyone's working hard to do. But I really appreciate Kathy's leadership, the work with the development team, with Councilman Nice, to help us get this far along in the project.
Thank you. I would mention, to answer a little bit more on the investor, we are working with some local groups and have term sheets with local groups, including a local group of minority investors, and right now it's just a matter of evaluating term sheets from letting 6 different groups evaluate our term sheet and figuring out which one is going to be the best fit.
And I'm sorry. I just want to just make this comment. I knew in the beginning when we announced, as far as in August, the end of August, this Homeland coming with an HBCU, which is a historically black college and university investor, and then we lost that investor. I wanted to make sure that we still had that same type of investment back into the community when it comes to a store for the community that it's going to be serving. So I'm very intentional about the wish and the ask of making sure we have a minority investor for this, especially because of the announcement that came out to the public that there was a minority investor. So I want to continue that and ensure that when we get to the end, we still have that same commitment from someone. And also, as we were looking at the projected sales tax for $242,000, me personally, I actually see us exceeding that greatly because of the great dire need that's in this community for our residents when it comes to a grocery store. And I'm telling you, every time I go into the community and I'm stopped, not just in Northeast Oklahoma City, but other parts of Oklahoma City, everyone's asking, when is the store going to be open? So I think people are interested and excited about the commitment, not just from outside entities, but our own city investing in the residents that are within Northeast Oklahoma City. So I'm proud to be a part of that process.
I think, well, first, thank you. And thank you, Councilperson Nice, for just doing the work you're doing. I believe I've mentioned this to you previously, and I think I might have mentioned it to Jeff Butler with our planning department, but I'm really interested in walkability as it relates to 36th and Lincoln, heading west, continuing on 36th under the underpass. You know, in Ward 2, our boundary's right there at 235, and we don't get a sidewalk on 36th until Western, and those are new. And that's strange to me because, as we all know, Western Avenue is one of our first shopping districts that took part in being a bid and stuff like that. And they created it as this like walkable area, you know, connecting you to your neighborhood and to your local shops. So it just strikes me as very odd that we would not have sidewalks connecting to 36th and Western and to that district. But I think simultaneously, and I don't know if we're going to have to look at some MAPS dollars. Unfortunately, in MAPS 4, when Councilperson Hammond and I and our working group were crafting the sidewalk portion of MAPS, you know, we invested in those 10 pedestrian priority areas, which is wonderful. But this location, the grocery store, is right outside of that. It's right outside of that. And so we did not plan for that. And so that's heavily on my mind. I take 36 down to MLK every day, or not every day, Monday and Wednesday when I drive out MLK to UCO to go teach. Like I take that road. So I'm always looking at those sidewalks or lack thereof. And I would just really like for us to think about walkability from 36th and Western to 36th and Lincoln, specifically because of the Senior Wellness Center. And, you know, you got to think people over in Edgemere and Crown Heights and Central Park, I'm pretty certain they would walk or bike or whatever over to that wellness center. I'm certain of it. I am certain of it. And I would also like us to consider, and I know you mentioned, in fact, you kind of got me excited thinking about it previously, but similar to the way we have those bridges into Bricktown, that, you know, they're very walkable, they're well lit, there's public art on them. I would like for us to really find a way to do something similar at 36th and 235. Because even if we were to put in sidewalks there from 36th and Western on down to Lincoln, you know, you have sloping hills, you have just this quick traffic, but I think we have an opportunity there to kind of remove a barrier known as I-235 and make it a walkable, lit, decorated with public art as well. I don't know if that's something that can come from this particular project or if we're going to have to look at possible unlisted funds and maps, but I just think it's critical that there's a walkability component to this.
So I will note that in the MAPS 4 resolution, it does the connections across I-35. That money could be used if funds allow.
Oh, in the Innovation District part of it, where we talked about.
So that connection, I'm going to keep beating that drum, because that to me is also a huge concern. You know, I saw the map that's saying, you know, 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk. And when I think about that corner, I mean, there's a urgent care over here that I went to once. I got off at the 18 bus that drops you off at 36 in Lincoln. And it feels desolate because sidewalks are essentially non-existent right now. It's a 4-lane road on the north side.
Yeah, actually on the opposite side, they just installed sidewalks. So we just got sidewalks on 36 from about Lincoln right now to Kelly. And going beyond, they are installing sidewalks on 36th
That's awesome, because that was an unpleasant walk when I was not feeling well.
Yeah, but I agree, from Lincoln to at least Western, there needs to be a continuance. Yes.
But I would say that it would be, like you had said, you know, there's different funding sources we have that we can look at different projects. I wouldn't imagine that there's a way to get that kind of a project out of this. I mean, this budget is really stretched to try to manage just this project and take care of this property. So I think, you know, really, if you looked at it, Kathy pointed out that there's an additional beyond, so we're doing an internal transfer from GOLT initially to put the money up front. It'll be repaid by the TIF, you know, the increment. But there's an additional $1.3 million because we are buying the remainder of the property to build all of the parking, and we are going to pay for the construction of all of the parking. And so that's that additional $1.3 million out of GOLT to help cover that gap already that we have just in trying to get the project done. So it would have to be another funding source.
But back to the pedestrian issues, that was one thing that was really important to the Planning Commission, that we consider pedestrian corridors and pathways within the site. So, obviously we will be building sidewalks, on all sides of the site. But even within the site, so how do you get from the Senior Wellness Center to the grocery store became really important to the Planning Commission. So we made sure that we accommodated all of that too. I mean, we want this to be, people from the Wellness Center can go to the grocery store and get a cup of coffee or something after they've worked out or had a class or something. So I think we're all thinking about it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Kathy? We do have a citizen who signed up to speak on this item. Okay. Michael Washington.
Yes. Hallelujah. In God's name we trust. Man, this is gallant on your part, but I have a slight problem with it. I don't need to pull my coat off today on this one. Here we are again. We want to put a grocery store on the 36th Street area of Lincoln. All of a sudden now, we want to start increasing and improving what the northeast side looks like. Interesting, isn't it? Isn't it quite obvious that there are some sinister, evil, wicked, and any other adjectives that may go along with it, that seems to tell me that the whole plot is to basically gentrify my whole community and move us out so that the wealthy white developers and their partners and friends can move in. Now you're going to use a black face from out of town to come in and say, we'll quiet this possible disruption by having them be involved so Michael Washington or others can't say, well, it's only money going to the white people. That's not going to work. This wellness center and all this here is quite interesting to Michael. And let me say, for the most part, I know it's a good reason why I came in here today, because I'm going to express my righteous indignation to this poppycock. Read that up in your dictionary if you're wondering what that means. Now then, there's no kind of way that you're going to make me believe that you're coming in with this redevelopment for the purpose of satisfying me. Now, you ready for this one? Everybody know that Homeland is one of the most expensive stores. Watch out, Michael, don't reveal the truth to them. With their products. Don't we, y'all? Matter of fact, y'all want to know what Michael Washington did just the other day? I compared their prices. I went and bought me a can of green peas. I love to cook for myself. Corn. Guess what? I went to two places. I went to the Homeland. I got the receipts. Then I went to Walmart. Did y'all know that Homeland's price was 60 cents more for a can of beans, green beans and corn? So what are we doing here? Are you intentionally trying to help pay for your project by making me spend more money with you to offset what she's going to charge to open it? That could quite possibly be the case, couldn't it be? Now, not only this, we know that it's going to be 9 times out of 10 if I spend my money 60 cents per more for whatever food. Oh, and guess what? I almost forgot. I went over there and bought, I like chicken wings too. I went over there and bought me a package of chicken wings. It cost $6.78. And I went to Walmart and got it for $5.58. Watch out, Michael. So it's not designed to help me. It's designed to gentrify, bringing your people over. That's right, the wealthy development, their family, their friends, just like y'all done our schools. Your whole intent is to move us out, man. Ain't nobody crazy. This tax increment finance monies. Oh, Galt's gonna loan you the money now, right? Now, hold on now. So that means you're going into further debt, right? You're going to pay Galt back, right, to 4.4. I told you I'd listen sometime. $4,400,000. You're going to borrow from Galt. And then not only that, you're going to borrow $1.3 million more from them to create this sidewalk or parking lots. But y'all missing one point here. Y'all didn't tell me that y'all going to own that Homeland for all that $4.4 billion. Watch out, Michael. You're revealing yourself. You didn't tell me you're going to own Homeland grocery store.
Mr. Washington, you're over 3 minutes.
Oh, well, can you answer that? Are y'all going to own a Homeland grocery store?
Mr. Washington, it's citizens to be heard.
Thank you. I knew you weren't. So like I said, there will be a lawsuit on all of it. Y'all have a great day. I got somewhere to go.
And I'm going to say this and then I'll be through. I want to make mention that this is not for just one individual. This grocery store is for the community. And I also want to make mention too, as we're comparing prices, let's keep in mind that Homeland is an employee-owned and operated store. And these employees, these new employees that we have not been able to bring jobs of this magnitude for quite some time to this community, that will be employed will have health benefits. And again, they are owners of this store once they become employees. So I think those are great things we need to continue to make mention of that. And also, as we're comparing prices, there was a study done, I believe, in 2016 that compared the prices of the store that closed on 23rd and MLK to some of the other stores that are within Oklahoma City. And that particular store had higher prices at that store than their other stores. So let's if we're gonna just balance apples and oranges, let's truly balance some apples and oranges when it comes to making sure and ensuring we're given the right information when it comes to what this is going to be. So again, but because our community is a food apartheid, we're experiencing that in Northeast Oklahoma City. We're experiencing that in 73111. This is for us to bring healthy outcomes to our community, and not to mention a pharmacy. We only have one pharmacy in our community. This is now giving us the opportunity to have not only another pharmacy, but another drive-through pharmacy for our residents that live within Northeast Oklahoma City. So we are extremely excited about what is to come for Northeast Oklahoma City and the health outcomes that will also come with this development for Northeast Oklahoma City. Good day.
Y'all, you have a great day now, and I'll be back.
Mr. Washington, you spoke already. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'll just say thank you to Kathy and Craig and Brent and the whole team from a staff level for all your work for many years. Much has been written and said about this project, but I just reiterate what an exciting one it is. Tamala and the whole development community that's made it possible, thank you. And then obviously the elected leadership, starting with Councilwoman Johnson all the way to Councilwoman Nice. So thank you so much. With that, we could entertain a motion to introduce the resolution for final consideration on December 17th. Would you like to make that? Second. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously, or is introduced unanimously. This will again be heard for final consideration on December 17th. This brings us to 9I. This is an ordinance to be introduced, set for public hearing December 17th, final hearing January 7th. This relates to our retirement systems, and I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, Wiley Williams is here with Municipal Counsel's Office to present the changes in this ordinance.
The ordinance before you for introduction today is a request from our tax council for the employee retirement system. This particular section authorizes the board of directors of the employee retirement system to invest in this vehicle of group trust. It's an investment vehicle, and in the ordinance, when it was adopted, there was a decision made to list the names of the different group trusts, and we had not updated it in several years, and the changes today just updates the list of the vehicles that we're investing in.
Okay, any questions for Wiley? All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion to introduce the ordinance for consideration. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. It is introduced unanimously, and we'll have a public hearing December 17th, final hearing January 7th. Now, item 9J. This is an ordinance to be introduced, set for public hearing December 17th, final hearing January 7th, relating to the zoning and planning code. I believe we have a presentation.
Yes, Jeff Butler, our planning director, is here to speak to the ordinance that's being introduced today.
Good morning, Jeff Butler, planning director. Happy to be here to talk about the Healthy Neighborhoods Overlay, which is here for introduction. You want to go to the next slide? Oh, having technical difficulties here. If we go to, we'll talk briefly about the area conditions, the purpose, the proposed boundary, and the regulations themselves. It's a fairly brief ordinance, but it accomplishes a lot, and we'll get through that. First of all, we'll go to the area conditions. And the area is defined by the 73111 zip code, and this zip code has been talked about a lot because it has poor health outcomes. We'll talk first, though, about its status as a food desert. The federal government defines a food desert as an area with limited access to affordable and nutritious food, particularly when there are low-income areas, neighborhoods, and communities. So this, you can see the map here on the right-hand side. The vast majority of this area does qualify as a food desert. The area conditions continued. We have 75% of the census tracts, as I mentioned, do qualify as food deserts. They're low income. They also have a low vehicle access. So there are a couple of different, some are worse than others in terms of those particular statistics, but they almost all fall in that category. In addition, as Councilwoman Nice mentioned earlier, in a related agenda item, there are high rates of cardiovascular disease, hypertension, stroke, heart attack, and diabetes. Mortality rates are just higher there due to the low health outcomes. The city-county health department has a health index, and this ranks very, very low, 47 out of the 56 ranked. And the life expectancy is almost 6 years less than Oklahoma City County on average. So the purpose of the ordinance is to protect the health and general welfare of the residents of Oklahoma City, and by establishing this overlay. And the overlay will require dispersal of small box discount stores unless they have a pharmacy or they have 500 square foot of retail space dedicated to fresh fruits and vegetables. Here's the proposed boundary, the zip code itself, and its final version. Here are the definitions for fresh fruits and vegetables, not processed or frozen, and fresh meat, not frozen, cooked, or dehydrated. And here's the definition of a small box discount store, which is being added to the ordinance as a new definition so that we can be precise about what is being regulated and what is not. And just the ordinance itself is, as I mentioned, fairly short and simple. The purpose is to avoid the overconcentration of these small box discount retail stores and to encourage access and greater diversity in food options. So just a couple highlights. The district boundaries, as I mentioned, are 73111 zip code. And the applicability, so it does not apply to anything that is currently, that already exists. It applies to new stores that may be proposed for the area after this were to pass, or after the date of the small box discount store moratorium became effective. And the couple final points, the distance, the separation is a mile, 5280 feet. So any new store would have to be that distance from an existing store, small box discount store. And as I mentioned earlier, the two exceptions are if the store has a pharmacy, if the proposed store has a pharmacy, which, as Councilwoman Nice mentioned, is in great need in the area, or if it has 500 square feet of retail floor space dedicated to fresh fruits, meat, and vegetables. That's the end of the presentation. We have the proposal is to set the public hearing for December 17th, and the final hearing and action on January 7th, as Mr. Freeman mentioned earlier. And with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
I don't have a question, but I did want to make mention. I know here in our presentation it says 5.9 years shorter than Oklahoma City average. I just want to make mention that there are also other reports that say 18 years less as well. So we're looking at from 6 to 18 years less in just this one zip code as far as life expectancy. So that is what the main reason for this healthy neighborhood overlay. And I know one of the questions, I watched the Planning Commission meeting, and I know the question arose from some of the residents as to us being retroactive when it comes to the other convenience stores that are already in existence. This will actually pertain to new stores that will come in as far as convenience stores. And we have, I do know with some of our Strong Neighborhood Initiative neighborhoods, they have spoken to some of those convenience stores about healthier options, and a lot of those stores are actually open to offering healthier options to their customers and their consumers. So just having the conversation is where we have to start when it comes to healthy outcomes. And again, this is not something that's permanent. I just want to continue to reiterate, this is not anything that's permanent. But as you can see from just the area conditions, this is a reason why we have to have some kind of policy in place to help increase at least healthier access and better access for our communities so they can be able to thrive and give back to not only their community, but to this great city. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this, that's the end of the presentation, right? This would require a motion to be introduced. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Introduced unanimously, set for public hearing December 17th, final hearing on January 7th. All right, 9K1, this is the public hearing regarding the dilapidated structures here listed, except for the ones stricken at the beginning of the meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak under this public hearing? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adopt a resolution found at 9K2 declaring that the structures are dilapidated. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9L1, this is the public hearing regarding the unsecured structures here listed, except for the ones stricken at the beginning of the meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak under this public hearing? Seeing none, we've got a motion to adopt a resolution at 9L2 declaring that structures are unsecured. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. 9M1 is a public hearing regarding the abandoned buildings here listed, except for the one stricken at the beginning of the meeting. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak under this public hearing? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the resolution found at 9M2 declaring that the buildings are abandoned. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we find ourselves at 9N. This is a resolution approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the Oklahoma City Airport Trust. And I believe you're going to say a few words.
Yeah, we had a presentation on this on November the 5th. We do have staff here from airports and from the finance department to speak to any questions that we have. This is a refunding of airport debt that'll be a refunding for a really significant savings. So just the bond market's in a position that it allows us to be able to do the refunding and save some on their debt service. And so it's really a good opportunity here, and appreciate the work of the staff in identifying this and working through this to make it possible.
And remind me, you are recommending the waiving of competitive bidding.
Yes, we have to waive competitive bidding because on refundings, we use a negotiated sale rather than a competitive sale. We select the underwriters through a competitive process, but then we need a negotiated sale because it gives them more flexibility in managing the process.
Okay.
So we need to waive competitive bidding.
And we just lost the seventh vote.
I talked too long.
Sorry I asked the question. All right, why don't we can go ahead and do the first vote if there is a motion to that effect. So this would be a resolution approving the incurrence of indebtedness requiring 6 votes. Everyone we've got left. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously and with Councilman Griner's oral yes. And now we will pause for a moment. Did he indicate he was coming back quickly?
I think we should move on to the next.
Okay, all right. We will come back to handle that, no problem. Brings us to a joyful item, item 9O. This is the resolution naming the future recreation center at Douglas Park at 901 North Frederick Douglass Avenue, the Willa D. Johnson Recreation Center at Douglas Park, in honor of Oklahoma City Civic Leader Willa D. Johnson. This would be effective upon construction of the facility. And you want to start us off, Councilwoman Nice?
Yes, I do want to say we are so excited that she is here with us, our Councilwoman and County Commissioner Willa D. Johnson. And we also want to acknowledge Mr. Pettis for bringing forth this nomination for her and her accomplishments as a civic leader and a servant for not only just the city, but also the county. So we appreciate all you've done, and thank you for being a trailblazer. It is because of you that I sit where I sit. So I thank you so much. And we just want to move this item. I don't know, do you want to say something?
I'll bet you never thought you'd see me humbled enough to cry. This is awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, young people, for stepping in here and taking the reins of this city and moving it to another step, because we've needed it for a long time. I was a part of the first MAPS program, and we had naysayers all over, but it worked, and it's keeping on working. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
You know, there's a saying, give them their flowers while they're still living. So I'm glad she's with us so she can sniff those flowers and also know that we appreciate her again for her efforts. So again, this is a resolution naming that future recreational center, the Willa D. Johnson Recreation Center at Douglas Park. With that, I move for approval.
Got a motion and a second, and I'll add what you meant to me as a friend, Councilwoman. And it was my honor to stand there and have you deliver my oath of office almost 2 years ago. And thank you for all the service you've given to this city and to me, and friendship to me personally. So thank you so much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Congratulations, Councilwoman. All right, why don't we return to item 9N. This was the resolution approving the incurrence of indebtedness. We needed a second vote of 7 affirmative votes to waive competitive bidding, and we now have our magic lucky number 7. So I would entertain a motion. Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously and with the required 7 votes with Councilman Griner's spoken yes. Okay, back to the agenda now, 9P. We will enter into executive session to discuss collective bargaining negotiations for fiscal year 2019 through 2020 with the AFSCME. Got a motion and a second to go into executive session. Any discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. We will handle that executive session at the conclusion of our other business. Now we brings us to 9Q1, claims recommended for denial, and we actually have someone who has signed up to speak on item 9Q1B, Jackie Pearson. Welcome.
Thank you for hearing me. I was driving down Reno. This is August the 9th. I work for Postmates, Grubhub, trying to make a living. I'm a veteran. And I'm driving down the street, and these little black things that are for the water department, one of them was up, and it blew out two of my tires on my left hand, on my right hand side. I proceeded to go get stopped. I was on a delivery. I called the lady, of course, and told her that I couldn't deliver her food. I don't think she was too happy about that. But more than that, I had to get 2 new tires. I didn't ask when I put in my claim. I didn't ask to be reimbursed for the money I lost because of not being able to work, because of that meter deal being up. Because, I felt like, that was trivial. All I wanted was my tire replaced. I didn't think that was too much to ask, considering, your august body is responsible for the streets and for the upkeep of city buildings. I found out the other day, after having called many times, that y'all were denying it. And from what I understood, I read what the Supreme Court said, and it said I didn't have the right because y'all hadn't been informed about the problem before. I couldn't understand by what the Supreme Court wrote because I'm just a common man. I don't speak law. I don't speak in anything but straight language, and there's nothing straight about what that says. But more than that, I do remember reading my Constitution. I do remember reading the Bill of Rights. I remember the Bill of Rights was written to protect us, the people, from the government, not the government from us. What you have done, or what the state has done in this deal, is make it where we, the people, are subsidiary to you. And I come back to say that if I, as an individual who own my own home, have somebody get hurt, or if they have a problem on their property, on my property because of something that was there, even though I didn't know it was there, I'm responsible. There's nobody else responsible but me. I know that I'm speaking to you on deaf ears. I know you won't change what you're going to do, but I want to say it. I think it's important that it be said. We are the people. We have the right to be treated fairly too. Just because your law says you don't have to pay me doesn't mean that I didn't do everything I should and could do to present the evidence to show that I should be paid. And I think anytime the city stops taking care of the people who have legitimate claims, then they have a real problem within themselves. Because, all you people are really servants to us. I'm not being rude when I say that. We pay your salaries, you don't pay ours. We should at least have justice. We should at least have what's right. Y'all can do what you want to, but I've said my piece.
Thank you. Amanda, are you here to speak to this? Give some background?
Sure. We have our claims attorney, Dustin Paris, who will give you the details on the information.
Okay.
Thank you. Dustin Paris, Assistant Municipal Counselor. This is a claim for $80 arising from Mr. Pearson running over a water valve in the street in Ward 7. So what we do in claims of this nature, we ask, was the city negligent in maintaining its equipment? Or alternatively, did we fail to properly exercise a duty of care? So I reached out to the line maintenance division of the utilities department, and they sent out a field operating supervisor to inspect this valve. It was inspected and it was found to be in proper working order. It was not sticking up when our guys inspected it. So the Supreme Court has held that a city can be liable when it has actual or constructive notice of a defect in the street. And because there were no work orders in the last 6 months, which is the metric that we use, there was no prior notice, there was no actual notice or constructive notice of a defect, and that's why it's being recommended for denial.
Thank you. So he sent a picture of it sticking up, though?
Yes.
Okay.
When line maintenance inspected it, it was down.
Back down?
Yeah, and it was found to be, they inspected it and said it was proper and working.
First of all, Mr. Pearson, thank you for your service.
Ma'am,
Thank you for your service to our country.
I thought it was my obligation as an American.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that. And I'm concerned too, because if he has the documentation, and obviously as residents and individuals who may not have experienced this before but have the documentation, there has to be something that we should be able to do when it comes to this. So I guess my question is, obviously, with the documentation that he has that shows that the valve was up, that is a notice. Although it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, that is a notice, but although it wasn't the notice that we require, it was a notice because that is what he knew to do.
Sure. Oklahoma law requires that we have prior notice before the accident occurs. And so that's what Dustin was explaining as we go through and we ask the departments, did you have prior notice? Were we notified? Were we given a work order? We look back as far as 6 months. In this location, there were no work orders for this location. We had no prior notice. So therefore, under the Oklahoma law, the city of Oklahoma City can't be held liable for the defect as he approached it on the day that it occurred. We don't dispute, he took the pictures, he's provided the picture that at the time where he went over the property that it was flipped up. It's that the city of Oklahoma City has no prior notice, which is a legal requirement for us to have liability within Oklahoma law.
May I say something? It didn't flip up. It was already up. Now, whether you got prior notice or not, I don't have responsibility for that. And you know what? Nobody else has responsibility for you having prior notice about something that happened to us on your streets. It's your job. It's the city's job to take care of the streets. Not mine, not anybody else's. It's the city's job. And when they do accidents happen, and I'm not blaming the city. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that even though they may not have responsibility for it being up, it's still the city's responsibility that it was up. And if it's not the city's responsibility, whose is it? God's? I mean, it comes down to that simple. I mean, if the city doesn't take responsibility, even if the law doesn't say so, if the city doesn't take responsibility for people who actually are trying to do what's right, and when they are doing what's right, if they don't take responsibility, then when do they take responsibility? I mean, it's a simple question. When do y'all take responsibility for anything other than what the law says you can do? Sometimes there's something above the law. There's what's right.
Yeah.
I would
Mayor?
say, yeah.
Mayor, you want to?
Yeah, on the equities, I mean, council, that's our recommendation, and Amanda stated the law, but it's only a claim for $80, so if council wants to find...
It's not a legal gift if we find in our judgment that there's equity.
It's a question of fact.
So can I just make a motion that we go ahead and approve claim under Q1B?
Well, you can't, it's currently recommended for denial. Kenny, do we have to defer it and redocket it for approval if that's what is that what you're getting at?
No, I just want to go ahead and approve it.
I don't think you can.
It's recommended for denial, but surely we can approve it right here.
It's just recommended for denial,
So we
Francis.
can approve it today.
You can approve it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So your
Second.
motion
So that's
is
my
to-
motion.
is to recommend, is to approve the claim
Yes.
as presented by
2-1B, correct.
Mr. Pearson.
Yes, sir.
And second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Mr. Pearson's claim for $80. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Oh, your red light does work, yeah, we proved that, okay. So that passes, it's a lot of math, James. That passes, what did it do? 6-1, okay. All right, thank you. We are back on Q1, the remaining items, A, C, D, and E. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Seeing none, I don't believe we need an executive session. Is there a motion to deny the other claims? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Now we are at 10A1, claims recommended for approval, items A through G. Don't believe we need executive session. Is there a motion to approve these claims? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, cast your votes. Passes unanimously. Brings us to items from council. Item A1 and 2 was deferred to December 17th, which means we'll hear from council members. Maybe do something unorthodox. We'll start with a former council member who has signed up to speak with the notation, "Something I forgot." So why don't we begin this journey around the horseshoe with Seventh Heaven, former Councilman Willard Johnson.
Those of you who've been here a long time know me, and I do forget stuff. But I wanted to say not only thank you to you, but to thank Mr. John Pettis. He has worked doggedly for this, and I always forget to say thank you. I say it to him personally, but I want Oklahoma City to know how hard he's worked to help me get this honor, and there is no better honor for anybody, anywhere. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. See you,
Thank
honey.
you. All right, now we'll begin our journey over here at Ward 7.
First of all, I do want to say this is exciting to be a part of this type of naming of someone for a recreational center. So again, I know Mr. Pettis called me. He said, "Nikki, this is something I want to do," and I said, "Let's do it." And he did. He did all the legwork for us to get to this point. And just to see the joy on Ms. Johnson's face, it obviously brings excitement to us all, and speaks to the legacy of women in leadership and what women can do when they become servants for our city and our state and our nation. I do want to mention a couple things. We had an exciting time a couple Fridays ago with Restore OKC, the Friday before Thanksgiving. No, it wasn't. It was the 22nd, so that wasn't the Friday before Thanksgiving. Yes, it was. It was the Friday before Thanksgiving. Either way, Restore OKC, along with Homeland and Oklahoma City Thunder, they gave out over 400 turkey baskets to families within the community. So we want to just excited about what they've done, and also want to announce that their community market is open, which is a co-op store, and they are open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 to noon and 4 to 7, and as needed. And in spring 2020, they will be open 6 days a week. So again, this is a co-op store, which is a community market, and it's for the residents or anyone who can get to the area of Restore OKC to be a part. Also, the Northeast Community Collaborative, they were, the following day, they were at the Douglas Center, and it was over 20 partners in total, and over 500 families were served that day. So that means in 2 days, over 900 families received turkey baskets for Thanksgiving. And I do understand, like, that next day, which was a Saturday, one of the churches gave away. And I do understand this past week that the radio station gave an additional 250 turkeys away. So, you know, when you have community that comes together for a common cause to make sure residents are meeting the need of having at least an option to feed their families for Thanksgiving, it definitely means a lot. So I'm thankful for all of those partners, and also want to say a special thank you to Waste Management, also to our Oklahoma City Police Department and the cadets, as well as we also had the Oklahoma City Fire Department 5th Quarter, and we also had Embark. They were all at the Northeast Collaborative. We asked for them to come and be a part, and without hesitation, they were there. So I just want to personally extend a thank you again to all of those entities for being a part and volunteering and just enjoying this momentous occasion. And I also want to make mention of a food security symposium. That's going to happen on December the 11th, and it's from 1 to 4 at Metro Tech. And this is with ULI. And I bring this up because we have a few speakers that are coming. One is Professor Lowry from OU. We have another young lady that is a professor at Spelman, and she researched food security and inequities in Washington, D.C., in an area that is very similar to Northeast Oklahoma City. And she has a book that I'm currently reading, so she'll be talking about that. And we also have a professor who is at USC, but she grew up in Northeast Oklahoma City, and she's going to be a part of this symposium as well. So if anyone wants information, it's absolutely free for anyone to attend. The information is neokcfoodsecurity.com for that. So again, thank you to all, and we had just a lot of conversation when it comes to, I know people like to say food deserts, but I think we should get into the mindset and mind framing after I heard and was reading the book and understanding what a food desert is described as and how it's defined. It makes it seem like as if there is nothing there, nothing food, nothing otherwise. But we do know that there are people there, there are residents there, there's life there. So I think food security is a better term as we're trying to ensure that we get better food security for this community in Northeast Oklahoma City. So thank you so much.
Councilman Stone?
I wanted to talk about 2 events I was able to attend yesterday. The first was the groundbreaking at Manuel Perez Park. It's going to be a fantastic park that recognizes not only Medal of Honor winner Manuel Perez, but the other Medal of Honor winners that we've had in the state of Oklahoma, which is, I think, just a huge deal. And then also last night I was able to attend the retired Oklahoma City firefighters holiday dinner, and had a fantastic time there. George Fina, the president of the association, I think he missed his calling as a stand-up comic because he was hilarious last night. And I also learned that they have we couldn't decide if it was a motorcycle group or a gang, might be a gang, I don't know. But they go out and they raise money, quite a sizable amount of money, that they use to provide services for people displaced by fire. So families, I don't know if you could imagine, if your residence burns down, you know, what do you do? Where do you go? And some people may have difficult choices to make there. And this group really provides money to help them have a place to go and clothes to wear and food to eat until they're able to figure out a long-term solution. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Cooper?
Thank you. First, I wanted to thank the Tower Theater for hosting an annual, during my term, will make an annual Better Streets Maps 4. If Maps 4 passes, I'll be sure to update people, just as I'll be updating people annually on the Better Streets projects, knowing what's going on a year-to-year basis, what's been completed and what's on the horizon, and asking residents to add their voice to that conversation. Got a lot of good feedback from it. The way we arranged it was, I spoke maybe 5-10 minutes, and then for the next few minutes I introduced city staff. And I would encourage anyone from Ward 2 to really keep this on their calendar going after Neighbors Night Out next year, because I want to keep this going. I want to keep that conversation, that dialogue, because what happened was after city staff introduced themselves, then everyone had the opportunity to, for about 30-40 minutes, go to the tables for individual departments and talk about the projects, talk about concerns they have in their neighborhoods, and add their voice to the conversation. And then we regrouped afterwards, and we asked people, what did you like about the format? What did you not like? And they loved the format. And they loved being able to talk to city staff. Their request was that they wanted to talk with you all longer, and that they we did this on a Thursday evening, and they said, that's great, but what if we did a weekend one as well, like during the day? And so, it's just great to have those sort of conversations with the actual residents and getting their feedback, and not being afraid to get their feedback either. So to that, I'd like to thank our city manager, Craig Freeman, for being there that night. I want to thank Embark, Planning, Chief Gorley, Public Works, Parks. I see Doug and Melinda here right now. I want to thank Corey Lynn Hall, who's done incredible work with Homeless Alliance, Ian Colgan with the Oklahoma Housing Authority, and of course, as I said, Stephen Tyler for helping us arrange that event at Tower. I would also like to invite everyone to an event in the Cleveland neighborhood. They reached out to me. I'll just read this. They say, join us in the holiday tunes of the Cleveland Choraliers, a must-see and hear for this special event. The block will be filled with the sound of carols, complimentary hot cocoa and cookies to follow. A little reindeer told me there might be a special sighting of dear St. Nick, so be sure to dress the kids for photos. And all their donations will go to support SMART for Cleveland. It's a community nonprofit founded by the Cleveland Elementary School parents that fund STEAM education for that school. So you can find more about that on social media. I can't attend because I'm going to see, I think, a Christmas Carol on Saturdays at the Civic Center, but I just wanted to put that out there. That's some of the stuff going on in Ward 2. But again, my sincere thank you to city staff and to the residents who attended this last week. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And lest we think nobody is watching, Mayor Norick texted me to give his congratulations to you for your naming today. All right, city manager reports.
Yes, so first up we have a presentation from downtown OKC. We have Jennifer Bowman and Holly Hoyler here to present this and just explain what they're doing with downtown in December.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Bowman with Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership. Holly had to go back to the office to get ready for our next event, which is this Thursday. We'll go ahead and get started. Downtown in December, presented by Devon, is a series of more than 30 holiday events and attractions that take place in downtown Oklahoma City. I hope you've had a chance to already attend some of them. The Devon Ice Rink is returning for its 8th year. It's open 7 days a week. It's $13 per person, or if you're an extra fancy individual and you have your own ice skates, it's only $8. Let's see here. Next, we have Saturdays with Santa, and this year is going to be known as Weekend with Santa. It's going to be December 7th and 8th, held at the Myriad Gardens this year instead of in the Devon Rotunda. Santa visits are first come, first serve. You'll create holiday crafts, listen to music, and it's free and open to the public. The Sandridge Santa Run is going to be Saturday, December 14th. That's going to include a 5K and a 1 mile costume contest with cash prizes, and registration is now open. All proceeds from this event do go to the Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership and initiatives, which will continue to fund marketing and promotion for downtown Oklahoma City, public art, street cleaning, landscaping, and lighting. Lights on Broadway was on Saturday, November 23rd, and was free and open to the public. It was all along Broadway, and it was a beautiful night outside. We had an estimated 4,500 people attend this year. It was a really nice event. The Tree Lighting Festival. Thank you, Mayor, for lighting the tree again this year. It was wonderful. We just got our estimated numbers in, and it looks like there was just over 4,600 people in attendance. It was rescheduled to Saturday the 30th due to rain, but that didn't affect any of our numbers. It actually looks like it was a little bit higher than last year. Took place on the third baseline of the Chickasaw Bricktown Ballpark. And we are continuing to see this event grow in diversity, not only in its programming, but in its audience, and we're looking forward to next year. Then we have our free holiday taxi water rides. The first night that the water taxi rides went live, which would be the same night as the tree lighting, I was told there was an estimated 1,000 people that took the free boat, which is really nice. This event will run through the 29th of December. We also have the holiday pop-up shops that began on Black Friday. They're on Northwest 10th and Hudson in Midtown, over 30 rotating shops, and there's free entry. This year, as you can see, we've got a list of even more events happening, and it's even easier to get around thanks to the free streetcar rides that are going to be Friday through Sunday, ending January 5th. Dog Day in December is coming up in Midtown this Thursday. Might be a little bit rainy, but I think the dogs won't mind, and Santa will be there to take pictures with all of the pups. Mary Gardens will have their activities, and then we'll end festivities with Arts Council's opening night. So I hope that you guys can enjoy at least one of the events. Thank you.
You know, you see those old pictures of Oklahoma City with sidewalks choked with people at Christmas time, and I feel like we're there now.
Yeah.
We've recreated it. It's amazing. So.
It's so nice. So thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Doug Cupper to present on the priority for enhancing recreational opportunities and community wellness for the city.
Thank you. We'll get this lined up. I want to thank Melinda and Mike Smith from my staff for helping put this together. Try to keep this short so we can keep things rolling for you all today. As she pulls it up, I want to just mention my gratitude to Willa Johnson and Mr. Pettis and the Board of Park Commissioners. Just saw, a lot of history there with the Board of Park Commissioners, and unequivocally a unanimous vote from them to recommend as the naming committee to the City Council. And I know that we all feel the same way about Ms. Johnson and what she's done for our community. Okay, we're here to talk about the City Council priority of enhancing recreation opportunities and community wellness. And it's a long mission statement that was put together by the City Council. The main emphasis is we need to make sure that we are providing lots of opportunities for our community to participate, and we need to make sure that they are participating in attractive and clean and safe recreational and park facilities. Some of our priority indicators: percent of residents that report regular leisure time physical activities, percent of residents within a half mile of a recreation trail or park, percent of residents satisfied with the maintenance of our city parks, and percent of residents that report using an Oklahoma City park or attending a park program more than 10 times per year. Percent of residents report regular leisure time physical activity. We've always set the bar at a fairly high number, but we're getting 65% of our citizens participating somehow, some way in our parks. We had a weird anomaly. I don't know what happened in 2017 that we dropped to 41%, but our average over the last few years has been 63.2. Our goal is to get to 70%, and we are creating new programs. Our recreation staff and our naturalist staff are creating new opportunities every quarter to spark new enthusiasm for the use of our facilities. We want to make sure that a larger percentage of our residents are within 1/2 mile of a recreation facility, and they have the opportunity to use our assets, the city assets that they've voted through MAPS 1, through MAPS 3, through GEO bonds, things along those lines. And one of the statistics that I wanted to share with you, one of our partner groups actually put a counter on the Burt Cooper Trail out at Lake Hefner. And in 1 year's time, we had 1.2 million users of the Burt Cooper Trail. So we know that the trail systems throughout the city are being used, and it's one of those things that is a primary indicator of what Mr. Cooper, Ms. Hammond, and Ms. Nice have been talking about since they joined the bench, and that's walkability. And all of our trail systems, whether it's the Will Rogers Trail that goes from Lake Hefner to the river, that's the primary exercise point for those neighborhoods that touch the Will Rogers Trail. So we are making an impact, and we are being able to recognize it being within a half mile. Another one is the percent of residents satisfied with maintenance of the city parks. We had a 70.7% rating, which was up 7.1% over last year. We think the citizens have really seen the improvement over the last 4 seasons, where we've been able to mow the parks every 14 days rather than every 38 days, maybe 28 days. The mayor has challenged us to look at trying to get to once a week mowing, and we are putting that analysis together and working with the budget office to bring some real thought back to the city council during the next budget process. Park maintenance mowing, you can see the number of acres that we do. But you got to think about those 1,800 acres as being a lot more. You know, if we're mowing 1,800 acres 30 times, you can do the math. That's how many times those 18, it just grows. And to have a 70% approval rating for the amount that we mow and that sort of thing, I think that says a lot for the crews that are doing the mowing. It would be easier on us if we could find more capable people to work. We want to fill all of our vacancies, and it's kind of a plug that we need people to join the city's workforce. Percent of residents using a park or attending a park program more than 10 times a year. 10 times a year, I don't know whether the regular users at Burt Cooper really realize they're using a park element if they are a member of the folks that get surveyed. But if you look at 5 times, we go up quite a bit. I think they understand what it is to be able to participate in a park program or use a recreational facility. But we're striving to create more opportunities to try to drive those numbers up. And again, as we were talking about the new senior health and wellness going in the northeast section and the walkability from one neighborhood under the interstate and getting people to those assets, that's going to be an important factor, and we want to make sure we capture those numbers. Recreational activities, we're on the grow. Over the last 3 years, we've had 8,800 kids or people participating in athletics, 76,000 participants of our aquatic centers. Recreation centers, we've had 129,000 participators, it's participations. It may be the same person taking multiple classes. And at our 2 senior centers, we've had 15,000 participants use our 2 senior centers. For next year's numbers, we're going to capture what the MAPS 3 senior health and wellness are participatory as well. We couldn't do it without park partners. As I said, we had one partner that counted the people that used the Burt Cooper Trail. We have a lot of partners. This is just a handful of the participants that are partners that have programs in our facilities that we want to recognize the work that they do. The Police Athletic League is a big participant in our soccer program. The Boys and Girls Clubs has high numbers at all of their facilities. And of course, the Oklahoma Wellness Alliance is bringing all of those participants together so that we have a common thread and we have a common goal and we have a common social media presence. Some of the innovative programs that we've had over the last couple of years, Sunrise Yoga at Will Rogers Gardens, That's a big hit. Our outdoor fitness courts, of which we opened this year, have been very busy, the 5 of them that are across the city, and we're looking forward to adding additional ones in the future. Enhanced recreational opportunities. This is one of the things that we've gleaned from publications in Parks and Recreation. Youth who participate in extracurricular activities are more likely than non-participants to have a higher self-esteem, a greater academic achievement, lower incidence of delinquency, and improved test scores in both reading, math, and after they begin participation in after-school programs. So we want to make sure that we stay strong in that endeavor. As the school district repurposed some of their schools, we had to repurpose some of our programming to be available and ready for those new school attendees at the middle schools where we used to have active after school for elementary schools. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I think it was a good year for Parks and Recreation, and we're really looking for a strong 2020, and obviously we'll be real happy after December 10th. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Doug?
I don't have any questions. I do have just a comment. I just want to thank you all for the kind of innovative programs. I am a participant at the Yoga at the Civic Center on a regular basis, and it's just a $5 yoga class every Tuesday, Thursday during lunchtime. And before I started participating in that, I was trying to afford going to yoga classes at private studios across the city, and it just wasn't working for me. It just, my budget does not allow, $20 classes. So that really has been kind of a huge lifesaver, budget helper for me, and I know all the other folks that work downtown that access that. It's not even just a class anymore. It's really become kind of a community, and so those opportunities I think are just so important for, like you said, just the health and wellness of our city. So I just want to say appreciate what you all do.
Thank you.
I had a question. When it comes to the aquatics participation, I know recently we've had some of those locations closed as far as our pools. Do we know the numbers for the past 3 years compared to what our numbers were before?
The number of pools that we have available to the citizens right now, the residents right now, has been at 5 for the last 5 years. So these numbers are fairly steady. We did have a loss of participation at our Early Wine Family Aquatic Center when the Moore Parks Department opened up their new park with their aquatic facility. So we lost a few of the more patrons to their own facility, but it's been fairly steady. The last pool that was, the last 2 pools that I remember that were demolished right after I got here in May of 2014 was at completely had a senior moment.
Was Menace Lakeview one of them?
We had 2 of them. Oh boy, I apologize. I'm just having a complete senior moment on the 2 that closed when I was here. The previous 45 were closed before I came in 14.
I know, was Menace Lakeview one of them?
Yeah, well, Menace was one of the ones that was closed as part of the 2007 GO bonds.
And the reason I ask is because I have quite a few residents that live in that particular part of our community that are speaking about that pool. They still talk about that pool being closed and how they don't have access to a pool closest to them that they would like to go to within Oklahoma City and not have to travel outside of Oklahoma City instead of going to Midwest City to participate in their pool system. So that's just a concern I was having. So that was a question. I was just curious about participation. So
every neighborhood, I go to visit with the Taylor neighborhood a lot, and they always bring up their missing pool as well. It's one of those things that different times, different issues. I thank you. Just as a side note for the yoga, I have an aunt that turned 108 last Thursday on Thanksgiving, and she owes her longevity at starting yoga at the age of 60, and she still does it. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. Craig?
That's all we have.
Okay. And claims and payroll can always be available by clicking on the agenda at okc.gov. We have no citizens who've signed up to speak. We will go into executive session and then return.